What people are doing today isn't working. Most people go to a job that they don't like. They return home to a life they don't love.
If you spend any amount of time on this cesspool we call the internet, it's almost certain you know of the Liver King. The big bearded guy that's ripped to shreds and screams a lot. Not to be confused with the other big bearded guys that scream a lot. All jokes aside, the Liver King makes a serious amount of money. But how? We set out to find out. Join us as we discover how the Liver King makes $8 million per month. Firstly, who the heck is this guy? The Liver King's real name is Brian Johnson. Don't confuse him for the lead singer from AC/DC. That Brian is valid. Now, on the surface, this Liver King guy says some pretty nice stuff. He talks about bringing happiness and strength back to the lives of people. He also talks about eating healthy. More on that in a bit. Sounds like a pretty nice message, right? However, just like with everyone's least favorite bald kickboxer Andrew Tate, once you look past the surface, there's some messed up stuff here. Okay, so we did do some digging. We found a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration by Weston A. Price, DDS. And unsurprisingly, we must say, it seems like the Liver Boy took more than some cues from this man's work. Weston A. Price was a dentist who lived in the early 1900s. However, he didn't restrict his work to people's oral cavities. Instead, Mr. Price traveled the world and conducted research on indigenous peoples. What kind of research, we hear you ask? Well, he looked at the diets of these ancestral people and how they cooked their food. For a completely unrelated example, Price found that some communities had diets containing organ meats. These organ meats had K2 and MK7 vitamins and lots of other good stuff like that. We definitely won't see this information become relevant over the course of this article. So far, we've established he's great at plagiarizing stuff, but that's just the start. Next, we have his 9 ancestral tenants. Now, before we go on critiquing this guy, we must say one thing. His body is absolutely amazing. Man looks like a Greek god. Bro looks fresher cut than a salt-based steak. Now, let's look at his 9 ancestral tenets. First and foremost, the man talks about sleep and how its importance dwarfs everything else. Pretty good start, right? His second tenet is eating. What? Eating isn't an ancestral tenet. It's the only way for us to survive as living organisms.
I love eating. I was born to eat.
Anyway, he talks about eating whole animals. This is pretty fair since most cultures evolved to incorporate some sort of meat in their diet. The third tenet is moving. And when he says moving, he means working out, running, lifting heavy things, the whole 9 yards. Here's where we start to get into some pretty interesting stuff. First, the ancestral tenet of the shield, where you're supposed to protect your people from threats. What even?
I will protect you as my kin.
For some weird reason, there's also a portion about avoiding plastics, but there is loads of plastic in his video. Hypocritical much? Moving on from that, the next tenet is to connect. When the Liver King talks about connecting, he doesn't mean looking for the love of your life on Bumble. The Liver King means we should reconnect with nature and the great outdoors. He says humans have distanced themselves from nature over generations of development, and reconnecting will help us become happier. All right then, on to the weird stuff now. The following tenet is cold. According to the Liver King, being comfortable is a curse, and we need to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations to ensure we stay strong. Now, how is being cold an ancestral tenet, you ask? Honestly, we're asking the same question. Like, he knows some ancestral people lived and are still living in more humid climates, right? Man straight up dispels the concept of different weather and climate. Either that, or he doesn't know about it. Honestly, both are as believable as the other. Up next on Certified Liver Boy's list of tenets, there is the sun. Now, being out in the sun is great. It gives you vitamin D, helps your circadian rhythm, all that good stuff. An actual good thing.
I love the sun.
However, in classic liver lover fashion, he relates this to your teeth and not having to brush them. We have documented evidence that some ancestral tribes used to floss, so we have no idea what that's about. Of course, you know a guy like this can't have ancestral tenets and not have one be the fight. Of course it's the fight. Now you could interpret this as pushing ourselves, working hard, achieving our goals, and becoming successful. The fight with one's own sloth to achieve greatness. However, looking at this guy's track record, he probably means hand-to-hand combat with grizzly bears. That brings us to our final tenet from the Liver Lord, bond. He talks about how all humans belong to a greater purpose that exceeds their own individual beings, and that we should bond with family and friends. See? A good start and a wholesome end with insanity and falsehood in the middle. Like we said, very much like Andrew Tate.
Haram.
After that mess, we have his food. Then there is the food. Oh God, the food. According to this monstrosity of man, raw beef liver is the absolute best thing to eat after a long and hard workout. Yes, you heard that right, raw beef liver. Firstly, if you're going to buy into this insanity, we suggest you get your products from a high-quality farm directly from the source. If not that, don't even think about it. See, the Liver King argues that the modern world is too fixated on processed muscle meats. According to him, the most nutritious parts of the animals we eat goes unnoticed. First of all, let's look at the facts. Indigenous tribes in America would hunt buffaloes. Afterwards, they would eat the liver first. They wouldn't touch it with their hands. They ate it with a stick. However, they didn't then just leave the buffalo there and hunt the next one for its liver, because even indigenous tribes knew that would be stupid with a capital S. They would eat the eyes, the heart, and the rest of the animal too. So the ancestral people this man claims to idolize did in fact eat muscle meat. Also, we would like to point out an inconsistency, a contradiction if you like. He claimed earlier that we should eat animals whole, but now says muscle meat is overrated? You can see the facade unraveling. Liver King is also a big advocate of bone broth. For all the men that know, you know. For the rest of you, let's just say after having it at night, you'd have a difficult morning. A hard morning, if you will. But just how does he make his money? Okay, we've made plenty of fun of this man already. We've had our enjoyment. Now, on to the serious stuff. So the Liver King is a fitness and life coach. He spreads his information, or misinformation if you ask us, through various social media platforms, as everyone does these days. He is primarily a YouTuber, with a rather large Instagram following as well. His content reaches a worryingly large number of people. The Liver King makes his money through a number of revenues. These revenues include advertising revenue, sponsorships, and donations. Of course, as we all know, when you're a YouTuber, the main way you generate your income is the same thing that is the bane of every YouTuber's user's existence: advertisements. And the Liver King is no different, as he too has a variety of different ads running on his channel. Another one of the main sources of Liver King's income is through sponsorships. Yes, believe it or not, people are willing to pay this man actual money to promote their products. In fact, the Liver King has a number of sponsors who have paired up with him on multiple occasions to promote their products, a tactic that is evidently proving fruitful since they keep coming back. Of course, the Liver King wouldn't be a king if he didn't collect from his kingdom. That terrible analogy means that the king accepts donations from his fans. This is mostly done through apps like PayPal. Does this man have a Patreon? Of course he doesn't, because our ancestors didn't have Patreon either. His endorsements aren't confined to his YouTube channel. He also promotes brands on his Instagram page. So, does he actually make $8 million a month? So, here's where things start getting construed about our liver-loving friend. You see, the matter of his income is one that is highly debated. The spectrum is wide. Some sources allege that he has a net worth of $1 million. Some say he pulls in a couple of mil a month. Some sources report his income being as high as $8 million. Whichever one of these is true, one thing is for sure: he makes more than enough money to have the ability to continue making his content. But what you didn't know is he was born into wealth. So how many of you, upon observing this man's antics, were able to guess that this man came from wealth? If you did, give yourself a pat on the back. The Liver King was indeed born into a wealthy family. This gave him a great platform to start with. However, he is not entirely a product of his father's money. In fact, say what you will about him, he has made his own money through savvy business ventures and investments. He's a smart businessman who has made some smart decisions, and even when the economy was struggling, he found a way to make money. What's more, the king has a philanthropic side. No real king keeps all his wealth for himself, and our boy Brian is no different. The Liver King is a known philanthropist, and he donates money on a pretty regular basis. He's also reported to have helped out people close to him financially. Final verdict. As you have learned in this video, the Liver King is a rather controversial man. On one hand, he's a philanthropist that helps out people in need and seems to genuinely care about giving back to the community. On the other, he promotes absolutely psychotic health and lifestyle tips, claiming to have an all-natural physique while clearly being on an absurd number of steroids, allegedly. Of course, the morality of his business ventures is debated. This becomes even more complicated when you factor in that he does indeed have some tips and messages that can be helpful for people to follow. However, at the same time, a person's good actions do not justify their bad ones. This goes especially for a person in a place of power and influence who knowingly promotes falsehood just to make money. In all likelihood, the man probably doesn't follow half of the stuff he preaches. And that is the sad truth of the state of the internet today. Literally anyone can take PEDs, get huge, make videos about how not showering for a month is actually good for your immune system, and actually make a good amount of money. At the end of the day, he's a smart businessman who's made a number of clever investments and has been operating in a moral gray area ever since he started YouTube. Make of that what you will, and don't forget to eat your daily raw beef liver while staring directly into the sun. Did you enjoy today's video? Any more facts about the Liver King you think we missed? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and share the video, and smash that subscribe button while you're at it. Until next time, we'll see ya.